Welcome to All Things Social Security. Enjoy your video. Guys, hope everything is going well. It is Tuesday, September 30th. I'm going to put this out there. Hopefully it'll be for tomorrow. But it is just some clarification for anyone who doesn't know or is being misled about what it means if we have that government shutdown that Senator Schumer is kind of jonesing for. I don't think it'll last long, even if it does happen. But here's a lowdown on that. And I'm telling you right now, by and large, have nothing to worry about. Okay. If you're an SSI or SSD beneficiary or a claimant, your claim is not stopping. It's still, those people are still doing their stuff. There is one little caveat to that. If for some reason a state decides to cut some of its workers that happen to be outsourced to the federal government, that would be on the state, but they certainly don't need to do that. So, because the government shutdown is a little bit something different than the state stuff. It's just that they do get funded by the federal government, so they might have to wait a little extra for their pay. But I'm sure a state is very responsible with its budget, and it knows to always have some money in reserve for a rainy day, right? Okay. I'm being sarcastic there, of course. All right, so I just put out a little ditty earlier for members, but that was just as a quick explanation in the middle of my day because I am under the gun with a couple of briefs that are getting out tonight. But I wanted to put this out for everybody else, and it'll be out in the morning. Where did we go? Yeah. Okay. So here are the things that expressly continue, and do not get affected by any federal government shutdown, which, by the way, affects a small minority of anything in the federal government. That's because of the way the funding goes and things are required versus discretionary and blah, blah, blah. Okay. The monthly benefits for Social Security and SSI payments will continue. Claims processing, new and pending disability claims proceed at all administrative levels. That includes initial, reconsideration, hearings, and the Appeals Council. For hearings, ALJs, decision writers, and the staff necessary to conduct hearings will continue working. Hearings and decisions the writing of them will also proceed. Post-entitlement actions. They say the SSA continues changes of addresses, SSI living arrangement updates, direct deposit updates, death inputs, and processing of remittances for overpayments and administrative fees. The DDS work, this is that state level stuff I was referring to. They note that and by the way, I got this information from Nosker, who was kind enough to email me. The SSA has urged state DDSs, that's the Disability Determination Services, when you guys are getting your medical workup, where you have to send a function report or work history report or request for medical records. Usually they're supposed to order them for you. And anyway, those offices, which are state offices outsourced to the federal government, the SSA has urged the states to continue the workers at the DDS to keep processing, and the SSA has pledged reimbursement once funding resumes. Because DDS staff are state employees, we are saying SSA cannot guarantee no furloughs. However, because it's the state's decision. However, in prior shutdowns, application processing continued uninterrupted. So we wouldn't anticipate a state doing that. If they did, it would pretty much be their own decision for whatever reason they wanted to screw around with that with. Because of course, a state has a budget that they certainly have, I would think, astute accountants managing the budget and having a reserve for little glitches, particularly when they want to rely, on the federal government for some of their funding. So, okay, here's what pauses. You're going to like the first one. The processing of overpayments. So if you're in danger of an overpayment, you get a slight reprieve here if we have a federal shutdown. Again, federal shutdowns tend to be, if they happen, which they do, they have happened in the course of history, they tend to be relatively short, in my opinion. Also pause will be the correcting of earnings records. Not a huge deal. They'll get to it, when the thing reopens, and it's kind of like a batch process. Enrolling appointed representatives for e-folder access. Now that kind of blows for me because that's how we can see what we can see. But if you guys recall, it wasn't until I think it was something in the prior administration for the first term of this particular administration. So that's with that little gap, 4 years that interrupted. And then again, more recently, I believe, where there was a time before they made this administration made those wonderful changes where we couldn't see anything anyway. So until we got to ALJ hearing level. So it's hard to go back, the thought of not having access, but I will say it's never been where there is always consistent speed of getting us access. Sometimes I have to really, really send in 20 million letters, have the claimant call the field office to get the field office to, take those important measures because someone's just not prioritizing it. Okay, so that one would affect us. It makes everything harder. It probably makes things slower. We can't see as much. So some of our stuff has to be a little bit more manual, and that means more phone calls to the adjudicator because we can't see what we can't see. So we have to call and ask. And, adjudicators don't necessarily want to pick up the phone because they're trying to get work done. All right, another thing that will be paused is the processing bias complaints from claimants and representatives. All right, that doesn't really faze me, so I'm good. I've personally never seen bias in any of my cases in 21 years, and I mean that. Is that because they nearly all win? Not really so much. I just really haven't. Conducting quality, I know some people claim that there must be bias. Why would they lose? It must be their gender or their religion or their race or something, but I haven't seen it. That's not to say it doesn't happen once in a very blue moon because human beings, as a collective, there are always some bad eggs, right? There always will be. Doesn't mean the whole system is bad. Another pause is the conducting of quality assurance reviews other than those related to allowances. Bah, yeah. We always seem to think that the quality assurance reviews, that's like that federal quality review we talk about, only seems to apply to allowances. That's probably not true. They apparently quality assure review maybe denials too. I don't know. I haven't seen numbers on those. If anybody has seen them and can provide a link, I would love to learn more about that. I just don't take time to research it because there's just too much more going on relative to proper client work and getting that done. And then speaking to you nice people. Another paused thing here is the processing of FOIA requests. That's FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But again, it's going to be short term. And the last thing that they note was responding to third-party query requests. Not even sure what third parties should be querying. Would that be an employer? I don't know if you're working. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with really claimants' cases. So I wouldn't worry about that if I were you. It probably has something to do with something much different. Let's see. They did do a mention about federal court cases. They said past shutdowns saw uneven treatment across the courts. And that makes sense. The courts, all those circuit courts that are handling certain regions of the country and they're not bound by each other. Like if one judge makes a ruling, it doesn't control anybody else in the country except the areas and, the districts within that circuit. The Department of Justice guidance to civil litigators, and they're talking about federal court cases again, request that active cases be postponed except for those in which a delay would compromise to a significant degree the safety of human life or the protection of property. But individual courts decide that. The DOJ further guided that they should monitor each docket. This is in federal court cases generally. Monitor each docket, check court websites, and call clerks as needed. That's not really so major for you guys either. They do a little ditty about representative fees. So this is the part that affects me also personally. Apparently in a prior looming shutdown, because we see these every year for as long as I can remember, the SSA had made a statement to NOSCR and it said, quote, in the event of a lapse in appropriations, we will continue to process benefit payments as well as the associated representative fees. Whoop, whoop, if applicable. Our contingency plan includes application for benefits as part of the continued activities under operations frontline activities, which would include the eligibility determination and benefit payment effectuation. Okay. Including associated representative fees for agreements that are in place and payable under the Social Security Act. So I know you guys probably don't care about that, but we representatives do because that's how we keep the lights on and stay in this kind of practice. All right, guys. I hope that reassures some of you. I know we've said this before because I think I probably did a little ditty on this last year in 2024 when there was something looming in 2023 and 2022 and over and over again. But there's always new people coming on board, so and they might not be aware of it. So, and I know you've probably seen all the hairy, scary clickbait videos that people do to get your attention and your clicks and at the expense of additional anxiety for you, perhaps. And I just wanted to put this out there because there's no need for that. Okay. And whatever is going to be paused is very minimal and doesn't really affect you in any negative way. Okay. So, and perhaps for those that it does affect, which is not you guys, maybe me a little bit, I'm willing to take the hit if it's going to make things better in the end. So I look towards a bigger picture and not just my immediate surroundings. But I know it's a little different with you guys because you're in the middle of a struggle that I am not in the middle of. So I wanted to get this out so you didn't have to worry about it. You guys are safe. I will talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye.